can't.
I watched Isla scroll through her phone as I walked in with 2 cups of coffee. "I got your usual," I said, placing one in front of her. She glanced at me, lips twitching. "Thanks," she muttered, barely looking up. "Rough day?" I asked, sitting across from her at the kitchen table. "Not really. Just busy." Her eyes flitted back to her phone. I hesitated. "You seem distant lately." She let out a small sigh. "I'm fine, okay? You worry too much." I tried to force a smile. "Maybe I do. I paused. I care about you, Isla. I notice when you're upset." Her phone beeped, and she swiped it open. "It's nothing. Work stuff." She tapped the screen with a manicured nail. "Anyway, don't overthink it." I nodded, though inside I felt a small prickle of hurt. It wasn't the first time she brushed me off. Later that week, she invited me to her office to see a presentation. I dressed neatly in my usual clothes, nothing flashy, just clean and simple. When we arrived, she introduced me to her team. "This is my boyfriend," she said quickly, glancing at me. I smiled warmly. "Hi, everyone." "Yeah, hi," a few murmured, but most looked past me, busy with their laptops. I caught her eye. She avoided mine, focusing on a folder in her hand. I swallowed hard. It stung, but I stayed calm. Afterward, we walked to the elevator. "You know," I said softly, "you don't have to be embarrassed about me." Her lips curved into a tight smile. "I'm not embarrassed." "Really?" "Yes," she said sharply. "Just, don't make a big deal of it, okay?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Sure." At dinner later, she started comparing me to someone else again. "Zane got a bonus today," she said, stirring her pasta. "I think it's nice, you know?" I looked up. "Zane?" "Yeah, he's just really ambitious. You should see how fast he moves things at the office." "I see." I forced a shrug. "I like your ambition, too. You don't need to compare anyone else." She frowned. "I'm just saying. You could learn from people like him." I said nothing, though the words sank in deeper than I wanted to admit. I wanted her to love me for who I was, not measure me against someone else. Days later, we went shopping for clothes. She shook her head at my jacket. "Is that really the one you want to wear? It looks cheap." I laughed softly. "It's fine. I like it." She pinched her lips together. "I just want you to look good. You know? For situations." I studied her face. There it was again, the subtle shame, the judgment disguised as concern. "I understand." I didn't say that it hurt me. I kept walking beside her, holding her hand, pretending her disapproval didn't cut into me like a knife. A week later, I met Zane for the first time at a company dinner Isla reluctantly invited me to. He extended a hand with a fake smile. "So, you must be Isla's boyfriend," he said. His tone had a polite edge, but his eyes scanned me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "Yes. I'm Alex," I replied, shaking his hand firmly. "Interesting," he said, tilting his head. "I didn't realize you worked in business, huh?" I narrowed my eyes slightly, hiding my irritation. I do, in my own way. He smirked, glancing at Isla. Must be nice to have someone who supports you, right? Isla smiled, but it wasn't at me. It was a polite smile, like she was glad I was presentable enough not to embarrass her. Yes, he's very supportive. I nodded. Always. The rest of the evening was filled with polite conversation, laughter I didn't share, and glances I couldn't meet. Zane made comments about investments, stocks, and wealth, subtly throwing me into contrast. I kept quiet, letting him have the floor. I wasn't ready to show my hand. Not yet. On the ride home, Isla broke the silence. You know, you don't have to come to the company anniversary party next month. I blinked. What? Why not? She shrugged, staring out the window. It's complicated. I just think you'll feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's better if you stay home. My chest tightened. So you're asking me not to come because you think I'll embarrass you? She didn't answer immediately. I want you to relax. Don't make it weird. I laughed bitterly. Relax? Isla, I've been walking beside you all this time, quietly supporting you. And now you tell me I can't be there because, what? I'm too simple? She avoided my gaze. It's not like that. Then what is it? I pressed. Be honest with me. Please. I'm tired of you, feeling out of place, she admitted finally. I don't want people to see you like that. My heart sank. I bit my lip. Like what, Isla? Like the man who loves you more than anyone? Like the man who's been there for you? She swallowed hard. I want things to be easier. For me. I ran a hand over my face. Do you even hear yourself? You're asking me to step back because of, what? My job? My clothes? My love? She looked away, embarrassed, frustrated. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I shook my head. No, it's fine. I get it. I really do. But inside, anger and hurt burned fiercely. I wanted to shout, to scream, to make her see what her words did to me. Instead, I kept my voice steady. I'll think about it. When we got home, I sat on the couch, staring at the wall. I wanted to call her out on everything, the sneers, the subtle insults, the way she introduced Zane like he was better than me, but I didn't. I wanted to understand why love sometimes felt like a battle I was losing before it even began. The next morning, I watched her leave for work, perfectly poised, perfectly smiling. I whispered, almost to myself, one day, Isla, one day, you'll see who I really am. I tried to convince myself I was calm, that I wasn't seething inside. But every glance she threw at me, every subtle judgment, had started building something, a quiet storm that no one could see yet. That night, I lay in bed alone, turning over every word, every look, every gesture. Why does it hurt so much? I murmured to the darkness. I gave you everything, Isla. Why can't you see me? Her laughter from last week's dinner echoed in my mind. The polite smiles, the soft insults, the way she introduced me as if I were a minor detail. My chest ached, but beneath it, something sharper was growing, something I couldn't yet name. I closed my eyes and whispered again, I won't beg, I won't chase, and I won't be ashamed. One day, you'll know. And just like that, the decision weighed on me, I wouldn't show my full self, not yet. Because if love didn't make her see me, then the world might have to. I knew she didn't want me at the anniversary party, but something inside me refused to stay away. I parked 2 blocks away, watching the lights of her company building shimmer in the evening air. I'm telling you, Alex, don't go, my friend Jason had warned over the phone earlier. It'll only hurt you more. I know, I said, my voice tight. But I need to see it, for myself. Jason sighed. Fine. Just be careful. I slipped inside quietly, wearing the suit she always mocked as too plain. The room buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and business chatter. I could feel Isla's presence before I even saw her, graceful, confident, glowing under the chandeliers. I approached slowly. Isla, I called softly. She turned. Her smile faltered. Alex? You're here. I couldn't stay away, I said, trying to keep my tone casual. I just wanted to see how your night went. She looked uncomfortable. I thought you said you'd consider not coming. I did. But, I paused. I didn't. Before she could reply, Zane appeared, his hand extended. Ah, Alex, he said, his smile polite but cold. Glad you could join us. Didn't expect to see you here. I shook his hand firmly. I like surprises. He smirked. So, you're really just her boyfriend, huh? Isla cleared her throat. Zane, that's enough. Just stating a fact, he said lightly. I mean, you work in finance, right? But this is different. I caught the subtle condescension. Yes. Different. I kept my voice calm, measured. I wasn't ready to show what I could do yet. She tried to steer him away. Let's talk over there, she said, moving him to a corner. I let them go. I didn't need to argue. I just wanted to see her, even if she didn't look at me the way I wanted her to. Minutes later, she approached me, fidgeting with her clutch. Alex. I held up a hand. Don't. I didn't want to hear excuses or soft apologies. Not tonight. I'm here. I'm watching. That's enough for now. She frowned. I didn't want you to feel out of place. I laughed softly, bitterly. Out of place? Me? I've been beside you through everything. But somehow, here, I'm the shadow of someone else. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I could see the hesitation, the panic. From across the room, Zane raised a glass, smirking. To Isla. And, well, the rest of us. Isla laughed, forced and light. I saw the way he leaned slightly closer, his arm brushing hers. My chest tightened. I leaned toward her. Does he always do this? She whispered, eyes darting nervously. He just likes to be noticed. I nodded, not taking my eyes off them. I see. And where does that leave me? Her hand hovered near mine, but she didn't touch me. I don't know. I let it drop. My emotions churned. I wanted to pull her close, to make her see that I was more than Zane's polite smirk, more than the quiet man she sometimes embarrassed me to be. But I stayed still. Later, a coworker approached me. You're Alex, right? He said, extending a hand. I've heard of you. Not much, though. I shook it firmly. Good to meet you. And you are? Chris, he said. I just didn't expect her to bring someone like you. Someone like me? I raised an eyebrow. You know. Calm, quiet. Not flashy. I smiled tightly. I see. I walked away before I could say more. I found a corner near the windows and watched the crowd. Laughter, clinking glasses, congratulations, it all felt distant, unreal. I saw her laughing with Zane again, and my stomach twisted. When she finally came over, she leaned close. Alex, maybe you should leave. You look uncomfortable. I laughed, a hollow sound. I'm not uncomfortable. I'm awake. I see everything. Everything, she asked, frowning. I nodded. I see the way you introduce me like I'm a footnote. I see the way you look at him. I see the subtle smiles that cut me more than any words. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? I pressed. Make me feel small? Embarrassed? Ashamed? She didn't answer. Her eyes dropped to the floor. I leaned closer. You've changed, Isla. Or maybe I just finally notice. You used to care. Now, I'm a detail you tolerate. And Zane, he's the highlight. Her voice shook. I didn't. I just. Alex, it's complicated. Complicated? I whispered, my hand clenching into a fist. Love isn't complicated. Respect isn't complicated. You've made your choice, whether you know it or not. She stepped back, panic flashing across her face. Alex, wait. I shook my head. No. I'm not leaving tonight. I need to see the truth. And I do. For the next hour, I drifted among the crowd, watching. Every compliment Zane gave, every laugh they shared, it was like needles against my skin. I forced myself not to lash out, not to ruin her night. I just observed. Pain sharpened into clarity. Finally, she caught me by the arm, gripping tightly. Alex, please. Can we talk outside? I nodded, letting her lead me to the street. The cold night air stung, but it felt cleansing. She turned to face me, hands trembling. I wanted you to have a normal evening. I didn't want this. I looked at her, eyes hard. This is what happens when someone pretends they don't care who they hurt. Pretends the truth doesn't matter. I stayed. I watched. And now. I know. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Know what? That you don't love me the way you say you do, I said quietly. That you care more about appearances than us. And that. I can't change that. Tears welled in her eyes. Alex, please. I shook my head. No. I need to feel this, understand it. I need to know how it feels to be on the outside of your heart. She looked away, shivering in the cold. I didn't think you'd come. I did, I said simply. Because I needed to see everything. And I have. We stood in silence for a long moment. I could feel the shift inside me, the first cracks of something new. Hurt, yes. But also understanding, resolve. Finally, she said, almost too quietly, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I know, I said, my voice calm but firm. But sorry isn't enough. Not tonight. Not anymore. She nodded, silent. Her hands fell to her sides. I took a deep breath, letting the cold night fill me with clarity. You asked me not to come. I did anyway. Now. I see who you really are. And I see what I can no longer ignore. She flinched. Alex. I gave her one last look, a quiet, steady gaze. Next time, Isla, there won't be a choice. You won't decide whether I'm in or out. You'll just see the consequences. She swallowed, unable to speak. I turned and walked away, the night air biting, but the weight inside me lifting just slightly. Something had shifted. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear: I could no longer pretend. And somewhere in that bitter clarity, the first seeds of change began to take root. The morning after the party, I didn't call Isla. I didn't text. I just sat in my apartment, staring at the city below. Every laugh, every glance, every smirk from last night kept replaying in my mind. My phone buzzed. It was Lena. "You look like hell," she said the second I answered. "I feel worse," I admitted. I stayed at her party. I saw it all. Lena let out a low whistle. That was brave. Or stupid. Maybe both. "I don't care anymore," I said, rubbing my eyes. "I can't keep pretending. She doesn't see me. She doesn't value me. But I can do something about it." "Like what?" she asked cautiously. "Alex, you're not." "I can," I interrupted, my voice low. "Her company is vulnerable. She's blind to it. And I have the means." There was silence on the line. Then Lena said slowly, "You're talking about buying in. Gaining control." "Yes." My hands clenched around the phone. "Not to ruin her. Not yet. Not her. But to prove that I'm not powerless. That I'm more than the man she sees." "You're serious?" "Completely. I'm tired of being invisible, Lena. I'm tired of her looking past me." Lena hesitated. "Alex, it's dangerous. She'll never forgive you if she finds out. And Zane, he's reckless. He'll notice." "I don't care about forgiveness," I said firmly. "Not right now. I care about respect. I care about truth. And I'll do it quietly. You can help me." Lena sighed. "Fine. But we move carefully. Step by step. No rash moves." I smiled, though it felt more like a grim determination than joy. "Agreed." Later that week, I met her for coffee. Isla. Smiling. Oblivious to my thoughts. "Alex. You're quiet today," she said, stirring her latte. "Just tired," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Work stuff." She glanced around nervously. "I wanted to apologize for last night. I didn't mean to." I raised a hand. "It's fine. I saw the truth." "The truth?" Her brow furrowed. "Yes. About how you feel. About who you value." I let the words hang in the air. Her expression shifted, a flash of guilt. "Alex." I shook my head. "No. Don't. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to move forward. In my way." Her hand twitched near mine, but I didn't let her touch me. "Forward?" she asked quietly. "Yes." I leaned back, studying her. "You've made your choices. I'm making mine." Her lips parted. "Choices, what do you mean?" I sipped my coffee, keeping my gaze steady. "I mean, I've decided I'm not powerless. I have resources, knowledge, connections. You think you know me, but you don't. And soon, you will see." Her eyes widened slightly. "Alex, are you serious?" I nodded. "Completely. And I don't mean to hurt anyone unnecessarily. But I'm done being invisible. Done being small. Done being tolerated. She stared at me for a long moment. Alex. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, I said calmly. Just listen. That night, I called Mr. Calder. It's time, I said simply. He chuckled softly. About time, Alex. You've been patient. Or too patient. Which is it? Patient, I replied. Until last night, I thought love mattered more than ambition. Now I know. I'll have to create my own path. You've got the funds. The leverage. And Lena has the inside info. Are you ready for what comes next? I have to be. There's no turning back. The next day, I arranged a meeting with Lena at a quiet cafe. She slid a folder across the table. Everything you asked for, she said. Company vulnerabilities, board issues, financial reports. You have what you need to start. I opened it and scanned the pages. My pulse quickened. This is perfect. We start small. Quiet. But strategically. Every move calculated. No mistakes. Alex, this is serious. You can't take it lightly. I don't intend to, I said firmly. I've been underestimated my whole life. Ignored. Dismissed. Laughingstock. Not anymore. She hesitated, then nodded. I'll support you. But, are you sure this isn't about revenge? I paused, looking down at the table. Partly. But mostly, it's about self-respect. If I don't act now, I'll spend my life wondering what could have been. And I won't do that. She studied me. You've changed, Alex. I can see it. That calm, it's not just control. It's resolve. I smiled faintly. It's survival. And patience. Patience I've learned from watching people like her and Zane get away with everything. Now, it's my turn. Later, I confronted my own reflection in the mirror. You're doing the right thing, I whispered. Not for her. Not for them. For yourself. You've given everything. Now it's time to take what's yours. I didn't know exactly how it would play out. Board meetings, secret investments, shell companies, these were my weapons. My tools. My quiet army. The next day, Isla texted me, "Can we talk?" Please. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. My chest ached, not from longing, but from the memories, the betrayal. I typed back, "Not today." Then I deleted it. I didn't want her knowing too soon. Patience, I reminded myself. Every move mattered. That afternoon, I met Lena again. It's all set, she said. Your investments will begin quietly. By next week, you'll have control. I exhaled, a mixture of anxiety and exhilaration. I can't wait. Lena frowned. Be careful. If she ever finds out you're behind it. I know, I said, tapping the folder. But she won't. Not yet. I'm doing this my way. Silent. Strategic. Clean. And when the time comes, she'll see. She'll finally see that I'm not powerless. That evening, I watched Isla from a distance as she left work. Confident, unaware. Beautiful. Dangerous. I clenched my jaw. Not for long, I muttered under my breath. Not for long. I spent the night planning, reviewing reports, making quiet phone calls. Every detail mattered. Every step counted. Zane's reckless confidence would be his undoing, I realized. Isla's arrogance and carelessness, her assumption that I was powerless, was my advantage. Before bed, I stared at the ceiling. My chest ached, yes. But it wasn't despair. It was clarity. Pain had sharpened me. Betrayal had awakened me. And I finally understood one thing: I was no longer willing to be invisible. I whispered to the darkness, "Tomorrow, it begins. And by the end, you'll see me. Everyone will." And with that, I slept for the first time in weeks, not with peace, but with purpose. The moment I began my quiet takeover, everything shifted. I wasn't the same man who had smiled politely while Zane leaned close to Isla. I was no longer invisible. I sat across from Lena at our usual cafe. "Everything is in motion," I said, flipping through the reports. "By next week, the board won't know what hit them." She leaned back. "Alex, this is bold. You're literally moving behind the scenes, buying influence, and reshaping everything." "I've been underestimated for years," I said, my voice low but steady. "Now it's time they see what I can do. And Isla, she'll feel it first." Lena frowned. "You're talking about serious power. Are you sure this isn't about revenge?" I shook my head. "Not exactly. It's about respect, control, and truth." I gave her love. She mocked it. She ignored it. I'm not giving that same pass to the company she's so proud of. She nodded, though uneasily. "All right. Then step 1, acquire more shares. Step 2, board influence. Step 3. I smiled faintly. Step 3 is watching the dominoes fall. Step 3 is letting the chaos work for me. The first week was delicate. I made phone calls, signed papers under shell entities, and quietly met with smaller investors. Every step was precise. Every word measured. During one evening meeting with Lena, I paused mid-discussion. "Did you notice Zane's move today?" She nodded. "He pushed through the new investment without proper approvals. He's reckless." "Exactly," I said, tapping the folder. "He's arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable." "That's perfect. Let him make mistakes. I'll clean them up quietly." She hesitated. "Alex, are you enjoying this?" I laughed softly, almost bitterly. "Not enjoyment. Satisfaction. Control. Something I've never had before." The next day, I attended a board meeting, not as a guest, not as Isla's boyfriend, but anonymously, through a proxy. I listened to their discussions, noting weaknesses, inconsistencies, and opportunities. Victor Hale, a greedy board member, leaned back in his chair. "We can't take risks like this. The company needs stability. It needs strong leadership." Zane nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. Stability and bold moves. That's why I pushed the merger. It's aggressive, yes, but it shows ambition." I listened silently, my pulse steady, recording every detail through Lena's updates. Their arrogance made it easy. Every decision they made, every careless word, built my advantage. Later, I met Isla outside the office by coincidence. She looked frazzled, running her hands through her hair. "Alex, hi. What are you doing here?" "Just taking care of some errands," I said, my tone casual. "You look stressed." "Busy day," she said, avoiding my gaze. "Lots of meetings." "Zane giving you trouble?" I asked carefully. She froze. What? No, he's fine. I studied her face. You're lying. She looked down, twisting her fingers. Maybe a little. But it's nothing. Nothing? I echoed. Isla, you don't get to pretend anymore. Not with me. Not after last week. Her lips trembled. Alex. I raised a hand. No. Not now. Focus on your work. I'll handle mine. And with that, I walked away, leaving her trembling in the cool evening air. Over the next few days, small tremors began to show in the company. Executives argued. Projects stalled. Zane made miscalculations. Victor grew paranoid. And all of it fed into my plan. Lena called one evening. Alex, they're panicking. The merger is in jeopardy. Zane's calls are frantic. I leaned back, a slow smile spreading. Good. Let him squirm. Let them all realize that the quiet one in the corner isn't so quiet anymore. She hesitated. Isla, she'll notice soon. I know, I said calmly. And she'll panic. That's part of the lesson. She's been blind to me. To respect. To loyalty. She'll finally feel what it's like to be powerless. By the end of the week, I had gained enough shares to influence key decisions without revealing my identity. The company's structure began to bend silently under my hand. I received a call from Zane that evening. Alex. I don't know how you're doing this, but something's off. The numbers don't add up. Did you influence this? I smiled faintly, my voice calm. Zane, I'm just paying attention. Maybe you should, too. He laughed nervously. Yeah, maybe. Look, don't interfere. Let us handle it. I wouldn't dream of it, I said softly. I'm just watching. After the call, I leaned back in my chair, thinking of Isla. She still believed I was powerless. She still thought I was simple, quiet, and easy to overlook. And every time she laughed at Zane's jokes or ignored me in her meetings, it fueled me. I remembered the night at the party, her subtle disdain, the way she avoided introducing me properly. I could feel the anger simmering beneath my calm exterior. It wasn't just revenge. It was the validation I had been denied for years. Later, Lena and I reviewed the next steps. Alex, are you planning to reveal yourself soon? She asked cautiously. I shook my head. Not yet. Patience. Timing. Let them crumble quietly. Let the cracks appear naturally. When the time is right, I'll step out of the shadows. She nodded slowly. You're changing, Alex. You're not the man who walked into her office politely smiling anymore. No, I said, my voice steady. I'm not. That man is gone. I'm someone they underestimated. Someone who waited. Someone who knows every weakness they have. The following week, the dominoes began to fall faster. Zane's reckless decisions cost the company thousands. Victor argued with him openly during meetings. Board members whispered behind closed doors. And Isla, she noticed the tension, feeling it like a shadow creeping closer. She came to me one night unexpectedly. Alex. I don't know what's happening, but everything's falling apart. I studied her, keeping my expression neutral. It's not falling apart, Isla. It's realigning. And sometimes, realignment feels like chaos. Her eyes filled with worry. Are you involved? I leaned forward slightly, voice calm. Not yet. But I'm watching. And I'm waiting. Her lips parted, panic flickering across her face. Alex, please. Don't. I held up a hand. No. Not now. Not yet. Your choices created this. And soon, you'll see that being blind to me, to respect, to loyalty, comes with consequences. She swallowed hard, unable to speak, and turned away. I stayed in the shadows, quietly orchestrating every step. Every email, every investment, every subtle maneuver fed into a single purpose, to rise from invisibility and claim what was always mine. By the end of the month, my influence was undeniable. Executives were uneasy, decisions stalled, and the board was fracturing. Zane grew desperate. Isla grew anxious. And I felt more alive than ever before. Lena called late one night. Alex, you're unstoppable. Quiet, patient, calculated. It's impressive. I'm just doing what should have been done a long time ago, I said softly. I was ignored, underestimated, and laughed at. Not anymore. Not ever. She hesitated. Do you think Isla will understand? I smiled faintly, a cold edge to it. She will. Eventually. And when she does, it won't be in the way she expects. That night, I stared at my reflection. The quiet one, I whispered. The man they mocked, the man they overlooked, he's awake now. And the shadows? They're mine. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel ignored. I didn't feel powerless. I felt control, clarity, and the quiet thrill of inevitable justice. And all the while, Isla remained unaware, standing at the edge of her own undoing, blind to the fact that the man she thought she could mock was rising from the shadows. The day finally came. I walked into the boardroom with Lena by my side, my chest tight but my voice steady. The room went quiet the second I entered. Alex? Isla's voice trembled. She sat at the far end, her fingers clenching the edge of the table. I nodded casually. Good morning, everyone. Zane's eyes narrowed. Alex, what are you doing here? I smiled faintly. I thought it was time we clarified a few things. Victor Hale leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. Clarified what, exactly? Control, I said simply. I now own the majority of shares in this company. The room froze. Papers shuffled. Phones were checked. Murmurs broke out. Isla's lips parted, disbelief written across her face. What do you mean? I mean that the quiet, unassuming man you've ignored, mocked, and overlooked is in charge now, I said, letting each word land. Zane stood abruptly. This has to be some kind of joke. I leaned back in my chair, calm and measured. No joke. Everything was done legally. Every move calculated. And now, the power is where it should have been all along. Victor's smug grin faltered. You've manipulated your way into control? Not manipulated, I corrected. Strategized. Something you and Zane clearly underestimated. Isla shook her head, voice small. Alex. I didn't know. I didn't. You didn't know because you never saw me, I said, my tone firm. You never believed in me. You didn't respect me. And now, you're watching someone you thought powerless become the one calling the shots. Her eyes filled with panic. Please. Alex, we can fix this. I can. I raised a hand. No. This isn't about fixing anything. This is about acknowledging reality. You've made choices. And now, the consequences have a face. Zane took a step forward, voice loud. This isn't fair. This is impossible. How did you? I did what you couldn't imagine, I said smoothly. While you were flaunting power, I was building it silently. While you were careless, I was precise. And now, the scales have tipped. Isla's voice shook. Alex. I don't understand. You never did, I said softly. You thought I was weak. You thought I was invisible. You thought love made me harmless. You were wrong. Victor tried to interrupt. This is unprecedented. We can't. Victor, I said, voice icy, sit down. You are no longer relevant to the decisions of this company. He blinked, flustered. Excuse me? You heard me, I said. Effective immediately, I remove you from all decision-making positions. Any actions contrary to the company's stability will be reversed. And any further insubordination will have consequences. He sputtered, and Zane's jaw tightened. I let them flounder, letting the tension build. Isla's hands trembled in her lap. Alex, please. I can explain. I didn't know you had the means. I thought. You thought I was weak. That's all, I said softly. And that thought cost you your perspective, your respect, and now, your influence. Tears pricked her eyes. Alex. I'm sorry. I shook my head. Sorry isn't enough. Not for what's been dismissed, overlooked, and belittled. But you'll have time to think about it, won't you? Zane spoke up, voice trembling slightly. Alex, you can't just. I already did, I said, my tone firm, final. Everything I've done is legal, calculated, and inevitable. You had every chance to recognize me, to respect me, and to value what I bring. You didn't. Now, you see what happens when someone underestimated rises quietly. Isla's gaze dropped to the table. I didn't see it. I wasn't paying attention. You weren't paying attention because you thought appearances mattered more than substance, I interrupted. And that was your biggest mistake. You judged me based on what you assumed I was, rather than what I could be. Zane's fists clenched. This isn't over. You'll see. You won't last. I leaned forward slightly, voice calm but unwavering. Zane, your arrogance is the easiest part of this. Every reckless decision you've made, every corner cut, every boast, it's all unraveling. And it's unfolding quietly while you panic. Victor tried again, louder this time. This is illegal. You can't just take over like this. I didn't flinch. Everything is above board. Every transaction transparent to authorities. The mistake wasn't mine, it was underestimating me, Victor. That mistake is fatal. Isla's voice was barely audible. Alex. You had your chance to value me, I said softly, almost regretfully. You chose Zane. You chose appearances over loyalty. You chose everything except seeing me for who I am. She swallowed, tears rolling down her cheeks. Alex, please. I didn't. I know, I said quietly. And now, the lesson begins. You'll see what it feels like to watch someone you overlooked rise quietly. To feel powerless while the one you ignored gains control. To watch karma unfold silently and inevitably. Her lips trembled. Alex. I can. No, I said, standing. Not words. Actions. You'll see it. And it will change you. I turned my gaze to the rest of the board. From this point on, the company operates under ethical leadership. Decisions will be guided by strategy, foresight, and respect. Anyone who resists will be removed. Zane's face was red with anger. You. I interrupted smoothly. I've already anticipated your objections. You can scream, threaten, or pout. None of it changes reality. I am in control now. Victor's smug grin was gone. His hands shook slightly. And Isla, what happens to her? I glanced at her, calm but piercing. Isla, you will face the consequences of your choices. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Every decision has a price. And you'll pay attention now, whether you like it or not. She didn't answer. She couldn't. The reality had hit her harder than I could have imagined. I walked to the head of the table, voice steady. From this day forward, respect is not assumed. Loyalty is not optional. Every action, every word, every choice has weight. And I will ensure that weight is acknowledged. Zane's fists clenched. This isn't over. It is, I said calmly. For now. Observe. Learn. And understand why underestimating someone can be fatal. Isla's face was pale, tear-streaked. Alex. You will survive this, I said quietly, almost gently. But you will not forget it. And that is the lesson you need. Lena, standing behind me, whispered, "It's done." I nodded. It's done. Quietly. Efficiently. Without theatrics. And now, the power has changed sides. For the first time, I felt the full weight of my control. Not arrogance. Not cruelty. Just quiet, undeniable authority. The very air in the room shifted. Executives who once laughed at me now watched cautiously. Zane's arrogance had met its match. Victor's smugness had evaporated. And Isla, she finally understood what it felt like to underestimate someone. She looked at me, voice barely audible. Alex. I didn't see it coming. I smiled faintly. No, Isla. You didn't. And that is why it matters. I turned and walked from the boardroom, leaving silence, shock, and a lesson behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The day power changed sides wasn't just about control of a company. It was about respect. About recognition. About the truth that no one should ever assume their judgment of a person defines their worth. And in that moment, I knew everything was beginning to change. The morning started quietly, almost innocently. But by mid-morning, chaos had spread through the company like wildfire. Zane was the first to panic. Alex, this can't be happening, he shouted, slamming his fists on the conference table. I didn't do anything wrong. It's a mistake. Someone's framing me. I leaned back in my chair, voice calm, measured. Zane, mistakes aren't always accidents. Sometimes they're consequences catching up quietly. He turned, disbelief twisting his face. Consequences? You orchestrated this? This is sabotage. No, I said softly. It's justice. You acted recklessly, arrogantly, ignoring rules and ethics. And now the truth has caught up with you. Victor Hale stormed in moments later, face pale. What are you talking about? Alex, my accounts, my dealings, they're under investigation. I didn't. You underestimated diligence, I said, watching his color drain. And now, your arrogance has consequences. Your personal shortcuts, your fraudulent dealings, have been exposed. Arrest is inevitable, Victor. Victor's hands shook. No, this isn't real. I've contributed to the company. You contributed to your own downfall, I said quietly. That's what happens when integrity is ignored. Zane's voice broke the tense silence. Alex, you can't just, what are you doing? This isn't fair. I studied him. Fairness isn't the point, Zane. Accountability is. You mocked me, overlooked me, flaunted power. And now, you're learning the cost of underestimating someone quietly working behind the scenes. Meanwhile, whispers spread through the office like a current. Employees who had once avoided me, laughed at me, or dismissed me now watched silently, eyes wide with a mix of fear and respect. My patience, my strategy, my quiet influence, it was unfolding visibly now. Isla appeared near the doorway, eyes wide. Alex, what's happening? I turned to her, calm but unyielding. The consequences of arrogance, carelessness, and underestimation, Isla. The same mistakes you encouraged by mocking and ignoring me are finally being faced. Her lips parted. But I didn't. You did nothing to stop them, I interrupted softly. And by remaining blind, silent, or complicit, you were part of the problem. And now, you will feel it too. Zane tried one last desperate attempt. Alex, this isn't right. You're powerless now, I said quietly. And that realization will teach you far more than anger ever could. The news spread rapidly. Zane's fraudulent transactions, mismanagement, and reckless investment choices were exposed to the board. Investors withdrew support. Media inquiries began. His career, once boastful and arrogant, collapsed in hours. Victor didn't escape either. Legal authorities arrived at his office, arresting him for financial fraud. His face was a mask of panic, disbelief, and fear. Isla's eyes were wide, following each move silently. Alex, this is extreme. I shook my head slowly. No, Isla. It's natural. Actions have consequences. You encouraged arrogance. You laughed at mistakes. And now, you see what it feels like to witness it quietly unravel around you. Her lips trembled. But you'll understand soon enough, I said. Not because I say so, but because the result is undeniable. By noon, the boardroom had transformed into a tense environment. Executives whispered nervously. Employees avoided eye contact. The company's stability was under scrutiny, but not chaos. I had implemented emergency measures, restructuring the company ethically, guiding loyal managers, and ensuring that even as the old arrogance fell, operations continued. Isla was called into the HR office. Later, she returned, face pale and shoulders slumped. You demoted me, she whispered, voice barely audible. Yes, I said, voice calm but firm. Your previous role required judgment, responsibility, and integrity. You failed on every level, Isla. This position allows you to learn accountability quietly, without public spectacle. Tears welled in her eyes. Alex, please. I didn't mean. I never wanted this to happen. You did not stop it, I said softly. You ignored, laughed, and allowed arrogance and recklessness to go unchecked. That is the choice you made. And now, you face the natural consequences. Her hands trembled in her lap. I see it. I understand. Anne. I'm sorry, Alex. Truly. I betrayed your trust. I made you feel small. I. Stop, I said quietly. I am listening. But understand this, Isla, regret after the fact doesn't undo actions. Apology doesn't restore lost respect. It only acknowledges awareness. And that awareness is yours now. Her shoulders shook, lips quivering. I know. I realize now what I've done. Anne. I hate that it took this long. I feel it, deeply. I know, I said softly. And that is the only way some lessons are truly learned. Not with lectures, not with warnings, not with anger, but through consequences you cannot avoid. She lowered her head, trembling. I betrayed you, Alex. I mocked you, ignored you, judged you unfairly. I hurt you. You did, I said quietly. And that hurt cannot simply be erased. That is why your lesson is not pleasant. That is why your regret is heavy. That is why justice sometimes feels hollow, even when it is earned. Tears streaked her face. Alex. I wish I could change it. I wish I could take it back. You can't, I interrupted softly. But you can move forward. Learn from it. Act with integrity. Let the pain remind you never to repeat the same mistakes. That is the only gift left from this collapse. She nodded slowly, trembling. I understand. I'll try. I hope you do, I said quietly. Because learning without action is pointless. Words without behavior, meaningless. And right now, your actions must speak louder than any apology. Later, I walked through the office quietly, observing the aftermath. Employees whispered among themselves, some nervous, some relieved. Zane's desk had been cleared. Victor's office remained locked, a quiet symbol of consequences faced. Isla worked diligently at her new position, careful, attentive, subdued. I realized then that my revenge, my justice, had been served. The people who had mocked me, underestimated me, and laughed at me, were now facing the results. But as I walked alone through the quiet hallways, a subtle emptiness lingered. The thrill of seeing arrogance collapse, of witnessing regret, of watching consequences unfold, it felt hollow. Not bitter. Not triumphant. Hollow. I had won, yes. I had restored respect, earned loyalty, and corrected the company's course. But the wound that had started with Isla's shame, her mockery, her distance, that had not healed. Not fully. Seeing her cry, seeing her regret, did not erase the past. Did not erase the years of being dismissed quietly. Lena found me later that evening. Alex, you did everything perfectly. Ethically. Strategically. Every move calculated. You've won completely. I shook my head slowly. I've won externally. But internally, some wounds remain. Justice doesn't always heal. Recognition doesn't always comfort. Even when victory is absolute, some things cannot be undone. She studied me quietly. Then, what will you do? I paused. I will continue. Ethically. Strategically. Patiently. Not for revenge, not for glory, but because it is necessary. Some things, like wounds and trust, must heal in their own time, not with theatrics or triumph. The next day, I requested a private meeting with Isla. She entered hesitantly, eyes downcast. Alex, you wanted to see me? Yes, I said quietly. Sit. She lowered herself into the chair, trembling slightly. I know. I've already seen the consequences. I understand. Good, I said softly. But understand something else. Acknowledgement does not equal restoration. Apology does not erase betrayal. You will carry this awareness with you, always. Her shoulders slumped. I know. I'll try to act differently. I want to make it right. You can try, I said quietly. But know that some things, once broken, cannot return to the same form. Trust, respect, and patience, they must be earned, slowly, consistently, and with actions. Not words. Not apologies. Her lips trembled. I understand, Alex. I see it clearly now. Anne. I'm so sorry. I truly am. I nodded, letting her words settle. Good. Remember that sincerity must be matched with consistency. That is the lesson here. Justice has been served. Now, your actions will define what comes next. She nodded slowly, tears falling freely. I understand. I stood, signaling the conversation was over. Good. That will have to be enough. And as she left, I felt the quiet weight of what justice really meant. External victories were complete. Collapses, demotions, and reckonings had occurred. But internal wounds, even with retribution, remained. I realized then that revenge could satisfy only temporarily. Recognition could correct course, restore balance, enforce fairness. But healing, real emotional closure, comes slowly, quietly, and on its own terms. And for now, I would continue moving forward, silently, strategically, carrying both my victories and my wounds with equal patience. Isla hadn't spoken to me in days. Not a word, not a glance, not even a message. I expected that. I had given her no reason to think otherwise. She found me in my office that morning, hesitating at the doorway. Her hair was disheveled, eyes red from sleepless nights. Alex, she said softly, voice almost a whisper. I looked up from the reports I was reviewing. Isla. She swallowed. I need to talk to you. Please. I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit. She hesitated, then slowly lowered herself into the seat. I don't know where to start. Start with the truth, I said. I'm tired of pretense. I'm tired of half-truths. Say what you feel. Her lips trembled. I was wrong. About everything. About how I treated you. About how I looked at you. I thought I knew you, but I was blind. And I'm sorry. I remained silent, letting her words hang in the air. I realize now that I underestimated you, she continued, voice breaking. I mocked your clothes, your job, your life. I even laughed at your ambition. You didn't just laugh, I interrupted softly. You tried to make me feel ashamed for loving you, for supporting you, for being me. Her hands clenched in her lap. I know. I see that now. And it hurts me more than I can explain, to know that I treated someone I love that way. I studied her face, noting the genuine regret, the raw fear, the shame she hadn't been able to mask before. And yet, you still chose appearances over loyalty. You still laughed at Zane's arrogance instead of seeing me. That's why you're here, Isla. That's why you feel this way now. Because actions have consequences. She flinched at the words. Alex, please. I didn't mean to. No, I said firmly. Don't apologize yet. Not until you understand the weight of what you've done. You treated me as less than I am. You judged me by what I appeared to be, not who I am. And that judgment, it cost you everything. Tears welled in her eyes. I know. I know it does. And I regret it. Every single moment I belittled you. Every time I compared you to someone else. Every time I acted ashamed of you. I regret it all. I leaned back in my chair. Regret is a strange thing. It comes too late to fix what's broken. But it's honest, at least. And honesty is the first step. She looked down, voice trembling. I want to make it right. Somehow. Anything. I see now what I lost by ignoring you, by mocking you, by being blind. I didn't answer immediately. I let her words settle, watching her struggle with the weight of guilt she had carried so long without realizing its full measure. She whispered, almost too softly to hear, I can't imagine what it must feel like, to have loved me and been treated this way. And I'm so sorry. You were my love, I said quietly. And I believed that love could fix everything. I thought it could overcome shame, pride, misunderstanding, everything. I was wrong. Her lips parted in shock. Alex, you're saying. I'm saying that love isn't enough when respect is absent, I said. I gave you everything, support, faith, patience, and I got judgment, shame, avoidance. That is why things are different now. She flinched. Different, how? I leaned forward, voice calm but steady. I hold power now. Quietly. Strategically. And you are finally seeing what it feels like to be powerless. To watch someone you underestimated rise, succeed, and change everything around them. Her shoulders slumped. I understand. And I hate that I only understand now. That's regret, I said softly. It's the bitter taste that comes after choices are made. You can feel it, acknowledge it, learn from it, but you can't undo it. Her fingers trembled over the edge of the table. Alex. I wish I could go back. I wish I had seen you differently. Treated you differently. You can't, I interrupted gently. And that's the lesson. You can't rewrite history. You can only face it. And you can only change the future by learning from it. She lowered her head, voice barely audible. I see that now. And it terrifies me. It should, I said softly. Because the pain of seeing someone you dismissed rise is sharper than any insult, any argument, any small humiliation. And you've lived it now. Her gaze lifted slowly. Alex, what happens next? I've lost so much. And I don't even know if I deserve. I leaned back, calm, measured. What happens next depends on choices. Not mine, not Zane's, not Victor's. Yours. You can watch, learn, and adapt. Or you can continue to falter. That's the difference between seeing someone's power and feeling it. Her eyes filled with tears again. Alex. I realize now that I loved you, but I never truly respected you. I can't undo that. You can't, I said softly. But now you understand it. And that understanding is your chance to grow. Or suffer. Her shoulders shook. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing. I see now how wrong I was. You were blind, I said gently. And blindness has consequences. You mocked me, overlooked me, and assumed I was powerless. And now, you're living the outcome of that assumption. I see that, she whispered. And it breaks me. But I will learn. I have to. Good, I said, voice calm. Because if you don't, if you keep pretending, if you keep avoiding responsibility, you will continue to be powerless. And that's something you will never forgive yourself for. Her hands trembled in her lap. I understand, Alex. I will remember. I will change. I studied her for a long moment. The girl I had loved, the girl who had laughed at me, shamed me, compared me, she was still there, but she was learning. Painful lessons, sharp and undeniable. And in that pain, I saw the shift I had waited for. You've learned the hard way, I said softly. And that is the only way some people do. Her eyes lifted, wet and pleading. Alex. I'm sorry. Truly. I know it's too late. But I'm sorry. I know, I said quietly. And that acknowledgement is all I need for now. Not for forgiveness. Not for reconciliation. Just acknowledgement. She nodded, trembling. I see it. Anne. I will not forget. Good, I said, my voice calm but resolute. Regret is only useful if it teaches. Pain is only useful if it changes you. Remember that. Her lips parted, as if to speak, but no words came. She didn't need to. I saw the understanding in her eyes. The weight of every choice she had made. The realization that she had misjudged me, misjudged everything. You'll carry this with you, I said softly. Every glance you ignored, every insult you threw, every moment you doubted me, you'll remember it. And you'll know the cost. Her shoulders slumped further. I do. I understand. That's enough for now, I said. You don't get absolution. You don't get comfort. You get truth. And it will guide you if you let it. Otherwise, it will haunt you. She nodded again, voice barely audible. I will let it guide me. I stood, signaling the conversation was over. Good. Take it seriously, Isla. The world doesn't forgive ignorance or arrogance easily. And neither do I. Her lips quivered, eyes full of tears. I understand, Alex. I nodded once, and left the room. The office door clicked shut behind me. I walked through the hall, quiet, controlled, the weight of victory and justice settling around me. Isla's regret was real, deep, undeniable. And it was the first time she truly understood the consequences of underestimating someone she loved and dismissed. From now on, every glance, every word, every action she took would carry that awareness. She would never again assume that love equaled weakness, that patience equaled powerlessness, that appearances mattered more than truth. And in that knowledge, I felt satisfied. Not revengeful, not cruel, simply acknowledged. The girl who had once mocked me, belittled me, avoided me, she was learning. And that learning was my victory. The office was quieter than usual that morning. The usual chatter, the laughter, the small competitions over trivial matters, they were gone. The boardroom felt tense, uneasy, like the calm after a storm. I walked in, briefcase in hand, and everyone turned to look. Their eyes, once indifferent or mocking, now carried caution. Curiosity. Fear. Respect, subtle but undeniable. Isla was the first to speak. Alex, her voice was quiet, hesitant, almost fragile. Yes? I asked casually, leaning against the desk, arms crossed. She swallowed, taking a deep breath. I wanted to say. I understand now. Everything. About me, about us, about how I treated you. I see it clearly. I nodded, letting her words settle. Good. Understanding is the first step. Change comes after that. She looked down. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't expect it. But I needed you to know that I regret it. Deeply. I know, I said quietly. And that is enough for now. Not reconciliation. Not absolution. Just acknowledgement. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I will do better. I'll change. I want to be someone worthy of your respect. I studied her, searching for sincerity, for truth. I found it. A flicker, faint but real. Actions speak louder than words, Isla. Don't let your remorse be empty. Show me through what you do next. She nodded again, determination mixing with her shame. I will. I promise. I left the office briefly, letting her process the moment. The rest of the board had been watching silently, waiting for the outcome. Zane was pale, Victor rigid, and a few others shuffled papers nervously. When I returned, I addressed the room. From this moment forward, decisions in this company will be based on merit, foresight, and integrity. Personal ego and arrogance have no place here. Zane opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. Save it. Every reckless move you've made, every moment of arrogance, it's behind you now. Learn from it, or face consequences quietly and efficiently. Victor cleared his throat. Alex, you've changed everything. We didn't expect. I smiled faintly. That's precisely the point. You underestimated me, as did Isla. But misjudging someone quietly working behind the scenes has consequences. Isla's eyes flicked up at me, vulnerable but attentive. Alex. I don't know what else to say. I understand. Good, I said, tone calm. Let that understanding guide your actions. Let it prevent future mistakes. Zane's face flushed with anger. This isn't over. You can't just. I interrupted smoothly. It is over, Zane. At least for now. Observe. Adapt. Learn. Or continue to stumble. He opened his mouth again but found nothing to say. Every word would be hollow, meaningless in the face of quiet, inevitable authority. Isla's voice broke the silence again. Alex, do you forgive me? I considered her, measured. Forgiveness is complicated. Not yet. Perhaps someday. But what matters now is respect. You will earn that first, through action, not words. Her shoulders slumped, a mix of relief and fear. I will. I nodded. Good. Actions speak louder than apologies. Remember that. Later that week, I walked through the office floor, unnoticed by many, acknowledged quietly by a few. People moved differently around me now, not out of fear, not exactly, but out of recognition. The quiet man who had been ignored had emerged with authority, patience, and precision. Isla approached me in the hallway. Alex. I've been reviewing reports. I want to help. I want to contribute, correctly this time. I want to do better. I studied her, searching for sincerity. I found it again. Good. Let your work reflect what your words say. That's how respect is shown here, not by apologizing repeatedly. She nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. I understand. I won't disappoint you again. I allowed a faint smile. See that you don't. That's all I ask. Not for me, not for anyone, just for yourself. Zane, meanwhile, had retreated to a corner office, furiously trying to recover what little influence he still had. Victor, now cautious and subdued, avoided direct confrontation. The shift had happened. The power balance had quietly, irrevocably changed. Late one evening, I stayed behind, alone in the boardroom. I reviewed the final numbers, the changes, the subtle ripple of influence I had orchestrated. Every step, every calculation, every quiet move had led to this. I thought of Isla, her regret, her fear, her newfound clarity. She had seen the consequences of ignoring, mocking, and underestimating me. I had no desire to humiliate her further. My victory was silent but complete. The door opened quietly. Isla stepped in, hesitating. Alex. I didn't want to bother you. I just. I looked up, calm. Speak freely, Isla. She approached slowly. I wanted to say thank you. Not for letting me live with my mistakes, but for showing me the truth. For teaching me what respect really means. I leaned back, arms crossed, observing her carefully. Good. That lesson was necessary. And you have begun to learn it. Quietly, without theatrics, without apologies that disguise ignorance. Her lips trembled. I see it now. And I won't forget. I promise. See that you don't, I said simply. Forgetfulness is a dangerous companion. It allows old mistakes to repeat themselves. Awareness and humility prevent that. She nodded, determination mixing with humility. I understand. I will act differently. I will do what's right. I studied her one last time, seeing both the woman I had loved and the one learning the hard truth. Actions speak louder than words, I said quietly. Remember that. She smiled faintly, small but genuine. I will. The boardroom had been my stage, my battlefield, my classroom. I had risen quietly, methodically, ensuring that respect, acknowledgement, and truth were restored, not just for me, but for everyone who had underestimated the quiet, unassuming man they thought powerless. And as I left the building that night, walking through the empty streets, I felt it fully. The victory was mine. Silent, steady, undeniable. Not revenge. Not cruelty. But recognition. Authority earned quietly, patiently, efficiently. Isla's voice echoed in my memory, full of regret and promise. I understand. I smiled faintly to myself. Yes, she did. And that understanding was worth more than any applause, any celebration, any fleeting triumph. The man she had once thought powerless had risen, silent but resolute, and claimed the respect he deserved. No words, no gestures, no dramatics, just the quiet certainty of inevitable justice and acknowledgement. And that was my silent victory. The office had settled into a new rhythm. The tension from before still lingered, but it was quieter now, controlled, measured. People moved with awareness, respect, and caution, but not fear. And I felt something I hadn't in a long time, balance. Isla came to my office one afternoon. Her eyes were calm, thoughtful, but still heavy with the lessons she'd learned. Alex, she began, hesitating. I wanted to check in. Make sure everything is okay. I looked up, calm. Everything is fine. How are you adjusting? She swallowed. I'm learning. Every day. I've seen the consequences of my arrogance and carelessness. I won't repeat them. I want to do better, Alex. Not for you, not for anyone, just for me. I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled. Good. That's exactly what matters, doing right because it's right, not to regain favor, not to appease anyone. Integrity isn't about being rewarded, it's about being accountable. Her lips trembled. I understand. I really do. I nodded. Actions will prove it. Words won't. But I trust you to remember that lesson. She looked down, quiet for a moment, then finally met my gaze. Alex, I want to say thank you. Not just for the lesson, but for not crushing me. For letting me survive this and learn from it. I see now what strength really means. I gave her a faint smile. Strength isn't about domination or punishment. Strength is patience, calculation, and the ability to act without unnecessary malice. I've shown you that, quietly, without theatrics. That's the point. Her gaze softened. I see it now. I respect you. Truly. And I'll carry this forward. I nodded once. Good. That's all I wanted. After she left, I sat back, alone in my office. The quiet felt different now, not tense, not sharp, but steady. I had achieved what I wanted, acknowledgement. Respect. Control. And now, peace. Lena called that evening. Alex, it's remarkable. You've done it. Quietly, efficiently, completely. People are adjusting. The company is stabilizing. And you've changed everything without a single public confrontation. I smiled faintly. Yes. That was the goal. Recognition, not drama. Control, not chaos. Let the lessons be absorbed silently, more effective than any spectacle. She hesitated. Are you satisfied? Truly? I considered that. Yes. Satisfied isn't the right word. I feel resolved. I've been underestimated for years. Dismissed, ignored, mocked. And now, I am no longer invisible. I've claimed respect quietly, efficiently, without unnecessary cruelty. That is enough. She paused. And Isla? She's learning, I said. Painfully, yes. But genuinely. That's all I wanted. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Just awareness and respect. Impressive, she said softly. Very impressive. Thank you, I said simply. The next morning, I arrived early at the office. Few people were around, the silence almost comforting. I sat at my desk, reviewing reports, planning minor adjustments, making sure everything was aligned with my vision. Isla appeared quietly at the door. Alex, may I come in? Of course, I said. Sit. She lowered herself into the chair, taking a deep breath. I wanted to discuss my next steps. I want to contribute meaningfully. Not just to the company, but to myself. I want to rebuild trust. Respect. All of it. I studied her carefully. And you will. Not because I asked, but because you understand the necessity. Not because you seek favor, but because you see the truth. That's the only way you'll succeed. Her eyes glistened. I understand. I promise to act accordingly. I nodded. Good. Let your actions speak. Words are meaningless without follow-through. We spent the next hour discussing minor strategy adjustments, ways she could contribute effectively without overstepping boundaries. I noticed the care in her tone, the humility in her approach. It wasn't forced. It wasn't calculated. It was genuine. After she left, I allowed myself a small, private smile. The lessons had been absorbed. Respect had been established. And I had finally moved forward. That evening, I walked through the empty streets, reflecting. For years, I had carried patience, restraint, and silence. I had given love freely, endured shame quietly, and allowed time to reveal truths. And now, it had. I stopped near a small cafe we used to visit, memories of simpler times flashing briefly. I thought of Isla, Zane, Victor, and everyone who had doubted me. I thought of the quiet man I had once been, timid, underestimated, overlooked. And I realized he was gone. Replaced by someone who had learned the value of patience, strategy, and silent determination. Someone who didn't need to boast, who didn't need applause, who didn't need recognition beyond what was earned and deserved. Alia's text arrived later that night, Alex. I've started changing. Slowly, but truly. Thank you for everything. I read it, then put the phone down. No reply was needed. Her actions would speak louder than words, as I had taught her. The next day at the office, I observed quietly. Projects ran smoothly, people moved with purpose, and even Zane had become cautious, aware that his arrogance had consequences. Victor was subdued, careful in every action. And Isla, she worked diligently, attentively, and with humility. I realized something then: control didn't mean domination. Victory didn't mean humiliation. True strength was guiding, correcting, and allowing others to learn. My patience had won, my strategy had succeeded, and my respect had been established, silently, without theatrics. During lunch, Isla approached me again. "Alex, may I join you?" "Of course," I said, gesturing to the chair. She sat, carefully, purposefully. I wanted to thank you again. Not for forgiving me, not even for letting me continue working here. But for letting me learn. Truly learn. I see now what respect really means. I see the value of patience and understanding. And I hope I can embody it. I looked at her, noting the sincerity in her eyes. You will. If you remember the lessons and let them guide your actions. Not because I tell you, but because you understand their necessity. I will, she said softly. I promise. I nodded. Good. That's all I ask. As she walked away, I felt a sense of closure. Not finality, not satisfaction in revenge, but the quiet triumph of wisdom, patience, and silent victory. Later that evening, I met Lena. "Alex, it's remarkable. The company is stable, people are learning, and you've transformed everything. Without anyone realizing it until it was done." I smiled faintly. That was the point. Silent, strategic, patient. Actions speak louder than words, and results louder than appearances. She studied me. You've changed too. Quiet, calm, decisive, different from the man I first met. Yes, I admitted. I've learned. From love, from betrayal, from patience. And now I'm moving on, my way. Without apologies, without theatrics, without unnecessary chaos. Simply, forward. She nodded slowly. Forward, quietly, efficiently. Like everything else you've done. I allowed myself a small, private smile. Exactly. That night, I sat alone, reflecting. The girl who had laughed at me, mocked me, and avoided me had learned. The company, once chaotic and arrogant, had shifted. And I had emerged not just victorious, but transformed. For the first time in years, I felt a quiet certainty. I was no longer the man who had been underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. I was someone who had claimed respect, achieved justice, and moved on silently, strategically, and completely. And in that certainty, I found peace.